There's a kind of quiet defeat that lives inside most people. You can see it in their eyes, that subtle dimness, as if the light that once burned inside has faded. They go to work. They come home. They scroll. They eat. They sleep. And every day, the soul whispers the same question. When did I stop fighting? We weren't born this way. As children, we had fire. We believed we could become anything. Warriors, explorers, creators. But somewhere along the line, life started to shape us into something smaller. Society told us to behave, to play safe, to fit in. And so, little by little, we stopped pushing back. Friedrich Nietzsche looked at this quiet surrender and called it the death of strength. He believed that human beings are not designed to simply exist. We are meant to overcome, to face struggle and rise through it. But in modern life, the struggle has been sterilized. We live too comfortably, too safely, too passively. We've forgotten what it means to fight for meaning. Nietzsche's entire philosophy was a rebellion against this comfort. He saw weakness not as a failure, but as a symptom of forgetting your power. He believed that within every human being lives a potential warrior, a being capable of turning pain into fuel, chaos into clarity, and fear into freedom. But to awaken that warrior, something radical has to happen. You must first face your own weakness. That's the part nobody wants to do. Because the truth is, weakness is comfortable. Victimhood feels good. It excuses us from responsibility. It gives us someone or something to blame. The job, the government, the parents, the world. But Nietzsche said the moment you stop blaming and start owning your suffering, that's when transformation begins. He called it the birth of the Übermensch, the higher self. Not a superhero, not a god, but a human being who refuses to live on autopilot. Someone who uses life's pain as a tool to evolve, instead of an excuse to retreat. It's not about conquering others. It's about conquering yourself. And that begins with one simple truth. You are not broken. You are asleep. Your strength hasn't died. It's dormant. It's waiting for the moment you finally get tired of being comfortable. Imagine this. You're walking through a forest after a storm. The ground is muddy, branches broken, trees split in half. But look closely. In that chaos, there's new life growing. Tiny green shoots pushing through the destruction. That's how the human mind works. It's in the ruins of our comfort that new strength is born. Nietzsche believed that pain is not your enemy. It's your teacher. He said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Meaning, without struggle, without conflict, you cannot evolve. The people who seem strongest aren't those who avoided pain, but those who walked straight into it and learned to transform it. That's the first key to Nietzsche's hidden psychology. Stop running from pain. Stop numbing yourself with distractions, dopamine, and shallow pleasure. Instead, look pain in the eye and ask, what are you trying to teach me? You'll start to notice something strange. When you stop running, your pain becomes lighter. When you stop resisting, your anxiety loses its grip. Because resistance is what gives suffering its power. The moment you face it, it starts to dissolve. And in that space, strength grows. Most people think power comes from control. Controlling emotions, controlling others, controlling outcomes. But Nietzsche's version of power is different. He called it self-overcoming, mastering yourself by confronting everything you fear about yourself. Every insecurity, every weakness, every failure, instead of hiding it, you use it. You convert it into energy. That's how the weak become warriors. Not by pretending they're fearless, but by learning to act despite fear. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward when fear still whispers, don't. When Nietzsche said, what does not kill me makes me stronger, he wasn't talking about physical strength. He was describing psychological resilience, the ability to turn every setback into self-mastery. Pain either breaks you or builds you. And the difference lies in whether you choose to suffer consciously or unconsciously. So here's the first truth in becoming a warrior of the mind. Stop asking for an easier life. Start asking for the strength to handle the one you have. That's how Nietzsche lived. He was sick most of his life, battling migraines, loneliness, and rejection. But he didn't let it crush him. He transformed that isolation into insight. He turned pain into philosophy. Maybe you're in that place right now, feeling stuck, small, defeated. Maybe life feels like it's closing in on you. But remember this.
Every great transformation begins in darkness. The cocoon looks like a tomb until it cracks open, and when it does, the warrior emerges. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop surviving and start becoming? Because the first step to rewiring your brain, to reclaiming your power, is to stop running from your own reflection. Look at it, own it, and then rise from it.
Every human being is fighting a silent war. Not with the world, but within themselves. It's the war between who you are and who you could be. Between your higher self that wants to grow and your weaker self that wants to stay safe. And Nietzsche said, the battlefield is not out there, it's in your mind. Most people lose this war before it even begins. Why? Because they think their thoughts are facts. They hear that voice that says, you can't do this. And they believe it. They feel fear and think, this must mean stop. But Nietzsche's psychology teaches something radical. Your thoughts are not commands. They are fragments of yourself, each fighting for dominance. He called it the multiplicity of the soul. Inside you, there are countless drives, instincts, and desires, some noble, some destructive, some indifferent, and every day they wrestle for control over your choices. You are not one person, you are a parliament of selves. One voice says, work harder. Another whispers, rest, it's too much. One wants meaning, another just wants comfort. And the war between these inner voices is what creates your suffering. The weak mind avoids this war. It chooses distraction over confrontation. It silences discomfort with entertainment, pleasure, or fake positivity. But the warrior mind, the Nietzschean mind, doesn't run from the conflict. It steps right into the chaos, listens to every voice, and then decides, who's truly in charge? Nietzsche believed that the key to power is ordering the chaos within, not eliminating your darkness, not erasing your contradictions, but organizing them around a single purpose. He called this process self-mastery through self-confrontation. Because you cannot command your life if you cannot first command your mind. He once wrote, he who cannot obey himself will be commanded. And that's the truth most people never face. If you don't control your impulses will control you. If you don't lead your thoughts will lead you, straight into mediocrity. But here's the catch. Control doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean silencing your emotions or pretending you're unbothered. Nietzsche warned against becoming too rational, too rigid, too moralistic, because that kind of control eventually breaks. Real control comes from integration, from allowing every part of you to exist, but training your mind to channel it, like fire through a forge. Imagine your mind as a wild horse. You can try to cage it, but it'll break free. You can let it run wild, but it'll destroy everything in its path. The warrior doesn't do either. He learns to ride it. He learns rhythm, balance, and focus, until that chaos becomes motion. That's how you harness your instincts without being consumed by them. Every warrior of the mind must pass through this stage, learning to sit with discomfort, to observe thoughts without judgment, to feel emotions without reacting. That's where real strength is built. Because the moment you can look at your anger without becoming it, your fear without obeying it, your sadness without drowning in it, that's when you've gained control. Nietzsche called this transformation becoming the master of your inner kingdom. He believed that every human being has a will to power, not power over others, but power over self. And when that will is awakened, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You become the sculptor of your own mind. Think about it. Most people spend their entire lives being ruled by invisible forces inside them. They think they're choosing, but really, they're reacting. Reacting to fear, to pain, to old wounds, to insecurity. Their lives become predictable because their reactions are predictable. They never evolve. But Nietzsche said, evolution begins the moment you start observing instead of reacting. When you pause before anger. When you question before quitting. When you choose action not because you feel like it, but because you decide to. That's the battle. That's the war within. And it's won in moments no one sees. When you push through doubt, when you get back up after failure, when you face the thoughts you've been running from your whole life. There's an old Nietzsche line that hits like lightning. The greatest weight. What if this life were to be lived again and again exactly the same? He was talking about eternal recurrence, the idea that you should live as if every decision will echo for eternity. If that were true, would you keep living the same way? Would you keep surrendering to the weaker voice inside you? Or would you rise and fight for control, knowing that every choice carves who you become? That's Nietzsche's challenge. Win the war within. Because until you do, every external battle will be lost before it starts. You can't change your world until you've changed the mind that interprets it. And that's why the path from weak to warrior begins not with the body, but with the battlefield inside your own skull. So now the question becomes, if you've recognized the war inside you, how do you win it? How do you turn inner chaos into clarity and clarity into power? That's what Nietzsche reveals next. The secret process of transformation. The method that turns pain, fear, and doubt into the purest form of strength a human can possess. At some point, everyone faces a breaking moment. That night when you stare at the ceiling and whisper, I can't do this anymore. But Nietzsche believed that's exactly the moment you're closest to awakening your greatest strength. Because when you've lost everything, hope, certainty, comfort, something deeper rises from inside you. A force that refuses to die. That force he called the will to power. Now, forget what you've been told about power. It's not about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. Nietzsche's will to power means channeling your energy, emotions, and chaos into creation rather than destruction. It's the moment when pain becomes purpose, when weakness becomes will, when fear becomes fire. He said every living thing has this inner drive to expand, to rise, to express its fullest potential. But most people suppress it. Why? Because they've been taught to obey, to fit in, to be good. Society praises comfort, not courage. It rewards imitation, not individuality. Nietzsche saw that the greatest tragedy isn't to dying, it's never truly living, because you were too afraid to break the rules written by others. The warrior's first step is rebellion. Not rebellion against the world, but against your own limitations. Against that inner voice that says, I can't. Nietzsche wanted us to recognize that most of our barriers aren't real. They were self-created prisons built from fear and doubt. Every I can't is a cage, and every act of courage is a key. The will to power starts when you stop asking permission to exist. You stop waiting for motivation, for the right timing, for validation. You act, you move, you create. Because the universe doesn't reward waiting. It rewards will. But here's the twist. Nietzsche didn't think the will to power meant endless domination. It wasn't about ego, it was about evolution. True power isn't shouting louder. It's standing silent when chaos surrounds you. It's choosing discipline over comfort, purpose over pleasure, and truth over approval. He believed the world breaks weak minds because it must. Only through resistance does strength reveal itself. So instead of complaining that life is hard, Nietzsche said, be grateful. The obstacles are your training ground. The pain you avoid today is the weakness that will haunt you tomorrow. Think of it like this. Every challenge you face is a forge, Every failure, a hammer, every doubt, a spark. Together, they shape the steel of your character. But only if you don't quit halfway. The weak stop when it hurts. The warrior endures until the pain transforms into clarity. Nietzsche's will to power is about rewriting your identity through action. You don't become powerful. You act powerfully. One small, disciplined action at a time, waking up earlier, saying no to distraction, choosing growth over comfort. Each decision is a declaration. I am not a victim of circumstance. I am the creator of it. And slowly, your brain rewires itself. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop chasing motivation and start generating momentum. This is the hidden psychology Nietzsche spoke of. The shift from dependency to dominance, from wishful thinking to willful creation. He believed that people fail not because they lack ability, but because they lack will. They let external forces dictate internal reality. But the warrior mindset flips that equation. I decide how I feel. I decide what happens next. When you reach this level, something incredible happens. You begin to experience what Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the overman, the evolved self. It is not about being better than others. It is about being better than who you were yesterday. It's transcending the chaos of society and living by your own values, your own rhythm, your own truth. The Übermensch doesn't seek meaning. He creates it. He doesn't wait for life to make sense. He gives it direction. He doesn't seek freedom. He embodies it. That's the ultimate transformation Nietzsche envisioned. The human who is no longer chained by fear, shame, or expectation. The one who can look at life, every joy, every heartbreak, every uncertainty, and say, yes. That's amor fati again, the love of fate, elevated to mastery. To live like this means you no longer resist reality. You dance with it. You use it. The chaos doesn't scare you. It fuels you. You stop chasing control and start cultivating power. Control is fragile. Power is eternal. And herein is the final truth. You don't become a warrior when life gets easier. You become one when you stop asking it to. When you face pain and say, this is where I grow. When you face fear and whisper, this is where I evolve. Because strength isn't built in comfort. It's built in conflict. The will to power is not about winning every battle. It's about refusing to surrender your spirit. So, if you're listening right now, remember this. Life isn't testing your limits. It's revealing them. And once you see them, you can break them. That's how weakness becomes wisdom. That's how fear becomes fire. That's how the ordinary human becomes extraordinary. Nietzsche's message wasn't just philosophy. It was a blueprint for transformation. You have the power to turn your suffering into strength, your confusion into clarity, your chaos into creation. You just have to choose it. Every day. Every moment. Because in the end, the world doesn't belong to the strongest or the smartest. It belongs to those who have mastered themselves. And if this message lit a spark inside you, don't let it fade. Like, share, and subscribe. Because this journey from weakness to warriorhood has only just begun. Every warrior is born from chaos. But Nietzsche believed chaos isn't something outside of you. It lives within you. He once wrote, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Those words weren't poetic. They were prophetic. Because what he meant was simple. You can create light without first facing your own darkness. Now ask yourself, what do you do when life falls apart? When plans collapse? When people betray you? When your dreams shatter? Do you fight or do you flee? Most people run from pain, thinking it's something to avoid. But Nietzsche flipped that idea on its head. He believed pain isn't a punishment. It's a message. It's life whispering, grow here. Every heartbreak, every failure, every rejection is a mirror showing you where your strength still sleeps. But most people never look into that mirror long enough to learn. They numb it with distraction, noise, and comfort. They escape the lesson, and by doing so they stay stuck in cycles of weakness. Nietzsche's secret was psychological alchemy, turning pain into power. Just like ancient alchemists turned lead into gold, He believed we must transform fear into courage, rejection into resilience, and suffering into wisdom. You don't escape pain, you transmute it. Imagine losing everything: your job, your relationship, your sense of direction. The ordinary mind says, "Why is this happening to me?" But Nietzsche's warrior says, "Now I'll see what I'm made of." When everything is stripped away, what's left is your essence, and that essence is where true power begins. Because pain, in Nietzsche's eyes, was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to forge you. Every tragedy is a test of spirit. The strongest souls aren't the ones who avoid pain. They are the ones who face it and whisper, "Do your worst." Think of your body. A muscle grows only after it tears. That tearing hurts, but it's the start of strength. The mind works the same way. Growth doesn't come from comfort, it comes from friction. Nietzsche's wisdom was clear. Don't pray for an easier life. Pray for the strength to endure the one you have. And this is where his most profound idea comes in: amor fati, the love of one's fate. Nietzsche didn't say, accept life. He said, love it, all of it. Love every victory, every heartbreak, every setback, because each one shapes who you're becoming. It's easy to love the good days, but to love the pain, that's the mark of a warrior. It means saying, I choose this, not because it's pleasant, but because you know it's sculpting you into something stronger. When you stop labeling moments as good or bad and start seeing them as fuel, you become indestructible. Nothing can defeat you, because you've stopped resisting reality. That's Nietzsche's hidden psychology. Suffering isn't your enemy, it is your teacher. Comfort dulls your edge, pain sharpens it. The more pain you can face consciously, the more power you awaken. Because pain and power are twins. One cannot exist without the other. The warrior doesn't crave peace. He craves purpose. Because peace without purpose is another form of prison. Every obstacle becomes a forge. Every scar becomes a signature of survival. Nietzsche's own life proved this. Despite illness, loneliness, and despair, he transformed his agony into art, his suffering into timeless wisdom. So when life tests you, remember, you're not being punished, you're being prepared. Every challenge is the universe chiseling away what's weak, revealing what's real. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in fire. And that fire isn't there to burn you, it's there to reveal you. As Nietzsche said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. So the next time chaos comes, don't run. Stand there. Feel it. Learn from it. Because behind every storm is a new version of you, clearer, braver, and closer to who you were meant to become. That's the real alchemy of life, turning pain into power and weakness into wisdom. The weak avoid the fire. The warrior walks through it and comes out reborn.